My name's Ann Gregory. If you haven't met me already, I am the director of the education counseling. You'll see Dr. Blackwell is here for senior last year experiences, and Dr. Mary Jane Eisenhower is also here. She's our associate director and works really closely with field experiences in our placements. You'll also see that Hadassah Moore is on, as well as Shelley Kolopanis, and both of those ladies work really hard to make sure that you all have answers to questions and get everything that you need, or at least as best as we can. Okay, so we don't have a presentation today. The idea is instead that we're really, we're going to share a couple of things regarding field experiences in the fall, what we're thinking, and what we know right now. And then we're going to open it up for questions. When we get to questions, if you've probably been on tons of Zoom meetings by now, but if we use the participants function where you can raise your hands, and Dr. Eisenhower and I will take turns moderating so that we can see everyone and respond to your questions, okay? Without any further ado, Mary Jane.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I see one familiar face, and I appreciate that everybody's on mute for now, but don't let that stop you from asking questions or giving some feedback in any other way. I hope you're having a relaxing summer as much as can be expected. And I want to commend all of you who were in the field this spring for really persevering and being flexible and sticking with it. I think, you know, how many times can we say these are unprecedented times? A lot of what you're going to hear today is we just don't know right now. So we're in contact with lots of different folks in schools, in the community, in the health department, even at P&W. And a lot of times what we're hearing is we just don't know yet. So I want to preface my comments by saying a lot of this is subject to change, but I wanted to update you and let you know where we are right now and what kinds of things we've been doing in the office. As Dr. Gregory said, all of us in the Office of Partnerships and Outreach, and that includes Julie Remschneider, many of you know her, and Hadassah, myself, Dr. Blackwell, and Pam, your academic advisor. We meet on a weekly basis. And what do? We talk about all of you, and we say, where are they going to fit best, and where will they end up in student teaching? The other part of what we do is talk about the schools, and we call schools and we email schools and we ask them, how are things going? What worked for you this spring? What do you need? What do you anticipate you're going to need for the fall? And so I want to reassure you that we've been in constant contact with many of our school partners. And what they're telling us, not surprisingly, is we're just not sure what we need yet. We're not sure what school's going to look like. You may be hearing lots of different stories about some schools are opening fully, but they may only have kids there on opposite days of the week. They're dividing groups of kids. You name it. There's lots of different models out there. And this gives us an opportunity to see how we can be flexible in many more different ways. So I want to reassure you that if schools are in session, you all will be in session. If schools are using remote learning, you will also be along with them, working with your host teacher and the districts to do remote learning with your students. So we've also been working with your faculty. So those faculty who are instructing your courses, and they're hearing the same message. Their partners in schools, their colleagues in schools are saying, we're just not sure what things are gonna look like. But the faculty are committed to making sure that you are having an outstanding experience and that you're really becoming as prepared as you can be to be an educator, which is your ultimate goal. So I want to encourage you to stick with it. These are a new normal, right? I hate to sound cliche, but things are changing, and I don't think we're ever going to go back to the way it was at the beginning of 2020, and that's for better or worse. But the sooner we can kind of all band together and think about how can we make sure that children in schools, in learning spaces, whether they're little itty bitty ones, 3s and 4s, infants and toddlers, all the way up through our high school students, are getting the very best education, and that this is not going to stop them from their ultimate goals either. Many of you who've been in the field are familiar with our field guides. So we haven't stopped that practice, and the field guides will be your Bible moving forward in the field. That will tell you who to contact, when to contact them, where to go, what assignments you need to look forward to completing, who they get turned into, for what purpose, all of those different things. Another thing you should be aware of is classes begin August 24th. That has not changed. Our schedule at PNW, the calendar for the fall, will remain the same. Perhaps you have friends who are attending other institutions and they're doing lots of different calendars and scheduling. The calendar at PNW will remain the same. So if you're scheduled for a Monday class, Monday, August 24th, you'll be in class with instructions from your instructor about what that looks like, where you'll be for class. You may be wearing a mask. Most likely you'll be wearing a mask. If you're face-to-face, you may be doing something like this by Zoom. Even though classes begin August 24th, we will not be out in the field until September 14th. So that gives us a little space to breathe out and get a better understanding of get your feet settled in class, get to know your instructor, and they'll have more information about the field experiences when you begin class. Those field experiences will then wrap up the week of Thanksgiving, that last week in November. So that's what I can tell you right now. I imagine some of you have some very specific questions, and I'm happy to talk about those. I know some of you are also looking forward to student teaching, which is really exciting. And we know now more than ever, our school partners are relying on all of us to help them, to not just help them, but to really walk along beside them and making sure that children get what they need in that learning environment. So student teachers, forget what I just said about school starting on August 24th and being in the field on September 14th. You will begin when your teacher begins. You now kind of make this transition to educator, and that means you'll follow along with your host school calendar. And you should have received today an invitation to the orientation meeting for the student teaching semester. So that will be the first week in August, and we'll have more information for you at that time. Your cooperating teachers will be there, your building administrators, and we can talk about what to expect during student teaching. And I would imagine in 4 weeks, we'll have a lot more information about what school will look like. All right. Questions, comments? I'm curious to know if any of you had some positive experiences with the remote learning that took place this spring.
We have Ashley, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so my one question was does anyone know what the protocol is going to be? So like if someone at our house gets COVID or anything like that and we have to miss the time, do we have to make that up or is it excused?
So one of the things that we are working on right now is making sure that we have a set of protocols in place. We're waiting guidance right now from the institution, so ours will mirror what the institution says. I can tell you right now that it feels, how's that for not being very specific, but it feels as if those who have, issues related to COVID, we will have a process in place where if you have to miss because of COVID or someone in your house or whatever, that we'll have something in place for that. I can't tell you right now what it is because we have to follow the institution's guidelines, okay?
Okay.
Thanks, Ashley.
Are there other questions that I can be really non-specific about?
So while you're thinking about formulating those questions, let me share with you what we've formulated with our school partners, some of the different ways in which we found to be successful ways of interacting this past semester. So this information was sent out to all of our school partners. We told them that you all can participate in e-learning activities creating lessons, creating, materials, web links, those kinds of things. You can also, you're all very well equipped to record lessons, whether that's some mini lesson, a direct instruction, a read aloud. You can do that for them. Perhaps you are interested and your teacher may need you to create a virtual meeting platform where you would meet with students like we are now on Zoom, and you could do an interactive lesson. So thinking about how you might set that up and what ways you could make that interactive. You could offer virtual hours for tutoring or support for students who need a little bit extra or some enrichment for others. You could create content to enhance their instruction. You could also start to compile materials and provide those to your learners and to your cooperating teacher, whether that's links or to videos. Perhaps there's so many resources. I'm hoping you're finding those this summer. I just heard about the San Antonio Art Museum. They're debating whether or not they want to even open for the rest of the year because they've had such great success with their online tours. So lots of museums and cultural institutions. And then also you could be a great resource to our teaching partners with what you've learned about technology, perhaps apps that you've discovered, programs, anything like that. So those are just some ideas of ways in which you may find yourself interacting with children.
So one of the things that I say often is that as a classroom teacher, the best trait you can have is your flexibility. Mm-hmm. And you started that, being able to demonstrate that flexibility this last spring, and how we had to move very quickly to online instruction. We're going to ask, and you're going to see that moving forward, everyone, classroom teachers as well as university faculty members, are working really hard to maintain that level of flexibility, and as well, and you may be asked to do so. You can anticipate that classes on campus will contain no more than 15 students in them. So if you and 14 other candidates will be in a space at one time on campus, and that's those are some of our social guidelines that I can tell you we're already going to be following. That means that coursework is going to be offered in a very different way as well. So there will be hybriding, what I call class size mitigation, so where we can have smaller class sizes, and timing so that we can clean the rooms between classes and things like that. So Jenny, I said all of that. What is your question?
I have a couple actually, if you don't mind. Going back to I know Dr. Eisenhower talked about that our field doesn't begin until the 14th when our actual classes start, or I'm sorry, September 14th, when we're actually going back August 24th. And I know you said you don't have exact answers, but I was wondering, as far as schools, school districts start to come out with their own plans for the school year, is there a time frame for you guys? Like, so for a lot of us, I know that we have children of our own that will obviously affect our ability to do our own schoolwork. So I was just wondering, time frame wise, is that something you plan to announce a little more in advance of starting classes, or closer to the start of field?
What we would like in our the best of all worlds, we would know exactly what the fall would look like and how we were going to be operating in it. So as school districts make their offerings, how they're going to be doing school available to us, we will be communicating that to the different field experiences. So you can make some plans hopefully ahead of that August 24th deadline. Does that help?
Yes, yeah, I was just curious, like, how far in advance, like, obviously I know it's all contingent on 8 million other things too, and I get that, but I'm just trying to get an idea time frame wise, like what we would be looking at.
Well, I think about I have a nephew, and he starts school the first week of August. And his school has made the announcement just this week what they were going to be doing. Now
Okay.
So it's looking like for the middle districts are trying to get the information out to families and then to us within that a month out of the start of school.
Sure. I have one other question, if that's okay.
Yep.
So my other question is, for some of us, we had originally registered for 36204 and 316, and then that was canceled back in May after we were all registered for it because of numbers. And I was wondering, with only 15 people on campus at a time per class, if that then changes all of that and that will open back up. So right now the registration for those other classes sit at like 36 people. Can you explain how the plan for what that will look like?
Yep, I can. So one of the plans, so a course like that meets once per week. So for example, the 315 and the 317 courses, right? They meet one time a week. What is going to happen is that half of the class will meet for the first hour and 15 minutes. The room will be cleaned. Then the second half of the class will meet for the second hour and 15 minutes. So that only 15, no more than 15 people will be in a room at a time. What that means then is that part of that lecture will be recorded, or part of that experience will be recorded, so that there will be an online piece to the course. That's one example of how that will work. You're right in the sense that those classes were canceled, but it wasn't necessarily because of numbers. It was because of faculty and ensuring that we had the faculty members to cover the courses that needed to be offered. And so what we've done is we've moved to what's called a cohort model on the Hammond campus. We'd already done that on the Westfield campus, but we moved to a cohort model so that we basically if you look at a plan of study, the fall semesters, all of the odd semesters on that plan would be offered that coursework. So semester 1, semester 3, semester 5, and semester 7. So the 315, 317 are offered this fall. And that means instead of, if you were supposed to be in the second literacy class and the social studies methods, that's what you had to, because you're going into semester 6, you'll take that semester it's just an out of sequence. That out of sequence piece doesn't really impact you much in terms of what your preparedness to be in the 315, 317 courses. But what it allows us to do is not impede your progress towards degree completion. We want you graduating and being in your student teaching semester when you've made the plans to do that. And so because we don't have faculty members that we need to offer every course at all the time, we're maximizing the faculty that we have, and we're ensuring that you graduate on time. Does that make sense?
It does. I just am concerned with, it seems like each semester there's a problem with, I know faculty numbers have dwindled, as well as the student body dwindling. And to be honest, it's cause for concern, because I'm at the point in my degree where classes keep getting canceled and not offered. And I just want to make sure that I'm actually going to be able to finish my degree out when I'm supposed to.
You will. That is entirely what I have worked really hard, and I continue to work really hard to do, is to ensure that no one's degree is impeded by the changes that we've had to make due to faculty difficulties. Okay, so if you have any problems, I will tell you this. probably one of your strongest allies and advocates has been Pam Ayala. So Pam will say to me, "Ann, you can't cancel that class." And I will say, "But Pam," and she will say yes. And we will offer it. And we're working really hard to ensure that you graduate, that you think, that when you think you're going to graduate, that happens, and that you have all of the coursework and the course offerings available to you to make that a reality. Okay. So I'm going to keep reiterating it, Jenny. But if there comes a time when that's not the case, you come and see me. Okay.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah. And can I help you? What's your question? There was a hand up, and now there's a hand down. Erica? Did you have a question, Erica? Hand is up. Okay, how about Maddie Griggs?
Yeah, I just have a question. So going back to talking about the field work, or the classes for this semester, so you said we're doing like 15 and 15. So even though like we're combining now with another cohort, is there like, that's like all the numbers are going to work out? We're all going to be able to, like, we're not going to have to fight for classes?
Nope.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay. That takes a big stress off, because like, that's when I was like, okay, so like now we're going to have to hurry up and get lined, like get in class. Okay.
Nope.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Looks like Erica's back. Do you have a question, Erica?
Yes, I'm sorry, my mute wouldn't turn on my audio. But I'm supposed to be in the social studies and the 36204, and I don't remember getting an email or hearing about those cancellations. So I'm going to be in the math and the science.
You are.
Are the schedules not updated yet, or?
They're working on doing that right now. So those will all be updated July 20th. The registrar's office is working on updating all of the courses. The format course will be offered in, adding all of the notes in on the schedule so that everyone can see how.
I'm going to interrupt real quick. Dr. Gregory, sorry. She's, Erica, you're Westville, so you're fine. Westville's sticking with literacy 2 and social studies.
I'm sorry, Erica. I thought you were on the Hammond campus.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Thank you. I was so confused. That was complete news to me.
I'm
I
sorry.
was like, nope, I emailed everyone, I promise.
I was very confused.
Nope, Erica, your schedule is, you're staying in the classes you're in. You're good.
Okay, and they're going to be, I know this you might not be able to answer this, but you said an hour and 15 minutes for part of it, half the class, or 15 of the students will be there?
Yeah.
And then do we know, are they the same days and the same times? Just depends on like what time you're there?
Yes. So what'll happen is, I believe, and I could be wrong with this. Okay, so I'm putting that out there. The date should not be changing. What'll change in the actual format in terms of, this is the 3-hour time frame, or the 2.5 hours for 316 or whatever, right? Like that should not be changing. But
okay,
who's going to be in there?
Right.
I believe the registrar's office is doing that kind of separation. But okay.
In regards to field, I want to echo what Dr. Gregory's talking about. When the schedule does come out on July the 20th, pay particular attention to the notes section. And this is true any semester, not just the one moving forward. The notes section will explain to you, for example, you should expect to be in the field 2 full days a week, or for this particular course, you're going to be in the field 3 full days, whatever it might be. And you should plan for the fall, just to be on the safe side, that's what your schedule will look like. So those of you who are entering your professional year in 315, 317, you should plan to be in your field site Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I see some of my early childhood students on here. If you're in 373 and 374, you will also be in the field Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, full days. So for now, plan on that. And then if things change, if schools are doing remote learning, or if there's some other model, at least you've got that mindset that's the time you'll be devoting to those learning spaces.
So let's go with Hope first and then Cameron.
Hi. I looked at my schedule like last week and nothing had changed, but then I looked again today before the meeting and now it says that EDPS 450 was canceled, but I don't remember seeing an email about it.
So I'm going to jump in real quick on that. So the registrar's office right now is working on making all the schedule changes per what faculty want in terms of mode of instruction. So I would say if you registered for classes, do not look at your schedules until July 21st or 20th, depending on if they meet the deadline. Because right now classes look like they're being disappeared and pulled away because the registrar's office has to take the class down, make the changes, and then re-upload it. It's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and the CRN numbers are changing, which is irrelevant for you guys because you're going to be put back in those classes. But that's why you can't see it, and that's why it looks like it's gone. But if a class was truly canceled, you would have received an email for it. But 450 was not canceled. It's just because the registrar's office is changing the format of the course from, a face-to-face to maybe a hybrid or virtual or something like that.
Thank you.
And as of July 20th or 21st, if you guys go into your P&W portal, and under the registration shortcut box, if you click on the link that says view your schedule, that's the really long version of your schedule. It'll tell you the mode of that course. So is it face-to-face? Is it hybrid? Is it virtual? Or is it online? And it'll tell you that as of July 20th.
All right, Cameron, what's going on?
Hi. Okay, so this is just a quick question. I'm student teaching in the fall, and it's totally about like something completely different, but I think it's kind of related. For core, I know we just got the vouchers, and I know that a lot of testing centers are still closed and won't be opening up until end of July, early August. How would you like us, would you still like us to try and complete them all before we start? I mean, given the circumstances, we don't really know how or when we're starting.
Right.
Didn't know if we still wanted that.
Yeah. So again, in a perfect world, we would have been able to do all of that, and you would have had this great summer to get ready for student teaching, right? Ideally, we want you to complete those core or attempt those core exams as close to your class that it's connected with as possible. We know that testing centers aren't open. We know, and that was part of our difficulty in getting the vouchers to you. So you have approximately 6 months on those vouchers, I believe. So, if you have time, I would recommend that you attempt it, because once you get into student teaching, it's going to get really crazy, probably really fast. So if you have time this summer and the testing centers are open, I would encourage you to make an attempt, okay?
Okay, perfect. I just didn't know if it was still we had to attempt all of them before, or what you guys kind of wanted to do with that. So,
well, yeah, like I said, I would love it, but I recognize the limitations of everyone's abilities right now, right? So, all right.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Cameron. Maddie, what's up?
One more, two more questions I just thought of. So my one question is that with the transfer from the 36204 to the whatever the semester ahead, and since that's supposed to be the professional year, are we still following the 2 days a week then for field?
You are. Okay. So what'll happen is your professional year will start with the 36204 and the social studies in your second literacy. Okay. Yeah.
And then since there's no is there 100% certainty we are going into the field?
At this moment, yes. In 20 minutes, could that change? Yes.
Because I just have some concerns about paying for this background check, because it's a lot of money and I haven't worked this whole entire pandemic, so it's not, obviously like financially like feasible if we're not going to be in the field.
One of the things that I want to say to all of you who are on here, if what Maddie has just said applies to you, and you can make a request for some financial assistance to support and help you. All you have to do is send an email to me with the subject line, request for assistance. I won't most likely be able to pay for the whole thing, the whole cost of something, but I can maybe help to offset some of those costs for you. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And everyone, let me jump in here. So if we want to define going into the field, we have to really broaden our definition of what that means. So going into the field may mean actually getting into your car and driving to a school. Going into the field may also mean sitting down at your computer and logging into your classroom. Or it may be some combination of those things. And so the background, you will be interacting with learners, no matter what space we're in. It just may look different, and it may look different week to week. So the purpose behind having you complete that background check is, number one, is just part of a professional obligation that you have. And number two, we want to be prepared for you to pivot quickly. Let's say we start off and it's not going to a physical space and you're just interacting by the computer. You still need to have proof that you have a cleared background check. But more importantly, 3 weeks later, if you're going into a school and they require you to have that, you want to have that in hand and not be inhibited from making the best of that use of time. So that will be something, and like Dr. Gregory said, please send her a request if you need some support with that.
I also want to say this. One of the things that we are intending to offer this fall are some workshops for you with other educators on how to do e-learning and how to kind of focus and frame learning in this kind of a virtual context. We've had a lot of really positive interactions with recent graduates who've done some amazing things, and how they've pulled together as teams that we're going to ask them to do some work offer some work for all of us to expand our skill sets in that area. So I'm making a pitch now that when you see that come across your desk, either an email from Pam or Maya, or one directly from me or Dr. Eisenhower, that you open it and that you try to make some time to attend those. I think they'll be really good. Ashley, I see your hand is up. How can we help?
Hi, sorry, she started crying, so I had to pick her up.
No worries.
But my last question would be, so say that like you guys were gonna send us somewhere kind of closer, but they're not gonna take us. So are there like boundaries you're setting as to like where you might send someone, or is it just kind of like wherever you can find a place for us?
So I'll let Dr. Eisenhower explain this a little bit more, but we have, we're geographically confined, right? Like we can't go anywhere in this state. First of all, it would be impossible, but second of all, we're restricted, and that's because of other higher institutions of higher education, and so we're not crowding in on their spaces. So with that said, Dr. Eisenhower?
So we have identified specific partners that we align those to our courses. So when we talk with our school partners, somebody might say, wow, this year our school goal is to work on literacy. So it makes sense for us to partner those classes, match those literacy courses with those schools that have a need and they're focusing on literacy. For the professional year, we have kind of groups of schools within districts where we send you, because for that professional year, you'll be, and I know I'm speaking directly to you, Ashley, because you're starting your professional year. So that's your student teaching placement for the entire year. So wherever you are this fall, you'll stay there through the spring. Now you may start off working in a third grade classroom in the fall, and then in the spring for your full-time student teaching, you'll be there maybe in first grade or some combination of those things. but we're very purposeful about identifying those schools that have capacity for whatever they need to match with the courses. And that would also address those requirements that we have, that each of you have an experience in an urban setting, a suburban setting, and also a rural setting. So you can think about kind of where you've been so far. Maybe you've already been in an urban setting, maybe you've been in a rural setting. It's likely that you'll end up in a suburban setting. Likewise with the grade levels. So thinking about this, and I'm speaking specifically about professional year and student teaching. We take a look at where you've spent your time. Maybe you've had 2 experiences in 5th grade and 1 in 1st grade and another semester in 2nd grade. It's likely you'll be in a 3rd or a 4th grade classroom, or perhaps even kindergarten for the fall. So thinking about where you've been, but we don't just fling you out all over. We work with those schools that have the capacity and that also have mentor teachers who are excited to work with you and have the credentials to do so.
Okay, yeah, because I just was a little worried because when Anne was saying, sorry, Carson dropped something. When Anne was saying something about like the classes maybe being cut shorter, I know that the classes that I'm to the point now that I need to take, I can't take closer to home. I have to go to Westville. So I just got a little concerned of like, if they only let us do field for a little bit and say I get like shipped out to like Michigan City, that's an hour away from my house. So I just was curious if like that would be taken into consideration just because of like COVID and stuff like that.
Yep.
And even, I mean, even without COVID, especially when we're talking about professional year and we're talking about student teaching, we look at your geographic area, and right. And our promise to you is that you'll never be outside of a 60-mile radius from your home campus. But Julie Remschneider is very particular about checking everybody's home address. I know she asks you time and again to give me your home address. She gets out the map and she really is very thoughtful about where you get placed so that it makes a lot of sense for you.
Okay, thank you.
Cameron?
Hi, sorry. So I just finished up my professional year, or like the first semester of it.
Yeah. The second half, yep.
Yeah. And I got my placement for like special ed. And I know it was different than where I was placed for my professional year. So I wasn't sure if like, I mean, I still don't have mine for gen ed yet because I know the school was like, well, not yet, but I just want to know if like there was a time frame for when we'd be like getting that placement or like.
Yep.
I'm nervous.
So Cameron, you can imagine this professional year, it's on paper, it all looks beautiful and wonderful, but then when you get right down to it, it's just like everything else right now, it's very messy. So the switch to your special education, that was based on not anything that you did, but it was really about the school and their needs. And so again, we're being very purposeful about putting you in a place where you're going to get the best preparation for your education. So stay tuned about your gen ed placement for now, but I think moving forward, we try to give you that information as soon as we get it. And so I'm glad to know that you have your special education placement. I'm sorry it's not where you were for the first half of your professional year, but I think in the end, it will all work out.
And Cameron, just to let you know, part of that has been because of the co-ops and how the co-op operates. So co-ops operate in multiple districts, not just in one. And so that threw a wrench in our ability to keep you in that same building and context, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, ideally, what we would like, especially for our dual licensure candidates, is to be in one building with 2 different teachers, right? So half of the time with a gen ed teacher, and then the other half with the special educator in that room or in that building. Right now, because of the co-op, that really has thrown some wrenches into the plan. We're working through that. Unfortunately, this go round, it's just not been possible. And the gen ed placements were taking a longer period of time anyway, because school districts were waiting to see what who was going to leave, who was going to be new, who was now eligible, all of those things that happened at the end of a typical year anyway. And then you add COVID on top of it, and here we are.
Okay. No, perfect. I just didn't know like how it was all gonna go. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Are there any other questions that you just want to know anything about, or anything that we can share with you?
I have a question.
Megan? Oh, okay. Hold on, Alejandra. Megan first, okay?
Hi.
Hi.
So since we're doing like an hour 15 in the class, does that mean, I think I missed it, so are we gonna stay through December, or are we going for Thanksgiving?
You mean when does our semester end?
Yeah.
Currently, there has been no changes to our academic calendar at PNW. So right now, our university courses right now are scheduled through December. Now that could change based because we don't know, right? But other places like Purdue West Lafayette, like campuses that have large residential populations have made some decisions about starting their semesters earlier and ending them around Thanksgiving. And that's really about minimizing students leaving and returning and the spread, potentially spreading the virus. Since Purdue Northwest, we don't really have a large residential population. I don't think, at least right now, there's not an indication that we'll be shortening the semester. Now, again, all of that could change because a task force recommendation is coming out here in the next couple of weeks. And at that time, if that were to happen, you all will be notified. You'll receive an email, probably like you did recently, from the provost office. Additionally, I want to come back to we don't start in the field, right, until the mid-September for all field placements except for student teaching. So we have some flexibility there. Field placements in terms of going out into schools and working with learners that way will end by Thanksgiving, though.
Okay. I was just curious because if we shorten it, would the class times get longer probably so we can fit everything?
I'm not sure how that's gonna work.
Okay.
Because there's an optimal point, right? Like I've seen you all. I'm just thinking of Cameron and Alejandra. They were in my 315 class this spring, and 2.5 hours, you all look a little baked. I mean, you're it's kind of done. So I can't imagine extending time, but we'll see. Okay. Sorry about.
I want to make sure everybody's aware of the resources available to you on Purdue Northwest website. There's a specific page dedicated to COVID-19 and any information that you want to know. So, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what do I need to have to get back on campus? Do I have to wear gloves? Which you don't at this point. But, what do I need to know? I really encourage you to use those resources available. Bookmark that page. When that email comes out, it'll probably have a lot of information to digest. And if you lose that email, you can always go to the PNW website.
Okay, yeah, that's helpful because I commute from Chicago, so like the city's very different than what's going on.
It is, and I commute from Michigan, so it's a lot different here too. So I get you, Megan. Okay. All right. So Alejandra, what's up?
Yes. So I just have one question. For those of us who are student teaching, like myself, in the fall, should we contact our cooperating teachers and just let them know all this information, or should we wait for them to contact us?
Go ahead. I would say, Alejandra, if you have been notified by the Office of Partnerships and Outreach, so if you've received an email from Hadassah with specific information about your cooperating teacher, that's a wonderful way to just make that connection. They may or may not be keeping up with what we're doing at Purdue Northwest, so I wouldn't overwhelm them with all of this information, but just a connection. Hey, how are you? How is your summer going? Are there any are you doing any book studies this year? Should I read are there novels I should be reading? Or just to check in. I think that's the nice, here's my contact information. Here's a little bit about me. I don't think you can ever go wrong with that kind of communication.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Are there any
So it looks like Anne is kind of freezing. So I think what she's trying to say is if there are no other questions, please don't hesitate to contact any one of us, Dr. Gregory, myself, Pam, Dr. Blackwell, Hadassah, Shelley. All of us are here to make sure that you are not left in the dark. Our answer may be, we don't know, we'll have to find out, or we don't know, we're still going to have to wait. But the last thing you need to be worried about right now is finding answers to questions. If we have the answer, we want to make sure that you have that information as well. So please reach out.
So I think, and one last thing, if I can, hopefully I'm not frozen, is that we will be holding another forum this summer. So look for another email. I anticipate that you're going to have more questions as the summer continues and as we get closer to the fall. If that's the case, again, like Mary Jane said, you can always reach out to us and we'll try to provide you with answers, or you can hold on to them and come to the next forum, and where we'll just do what we're doing now, share what we can share or what we know, and answer any questions that you have, okay? Thank you all for coming. Please stay safe, and I can't wait to see you all in person. I miss you guys.
Real life, that's right.
All right. Have a great day.